Hey guys, welcome to Bowhunting Soul. Today we're going to go through how to make summer sausage. I'm going to kind of go through it pretty quickly. There's lots of videos out there on how to do this, but I wanted to show you how, the kind of thing that I do. This is actually a mountain lion. A former boss of mine went and hunted a mountain lion in California, can't do that in California, Colorado. And I told him that I wanted to meet. I wanted to taste mountain lion. I've heard lots of really good things about it. So he basically came back with an entire cooler full, like the entire mountain lion, basically. So I've since cubed it up and done, done some primal cuts and things like that. And I'll do other cooking videos too. I've got roasts, I've got shanks, I've got, I just got done making jerky by the dehydrator back there, if you can see. But today we're gonna make summer sausage. We're gonna use this is backwoods seasoning. And this is jalapeno summer sausage, and I've got some other summer sausage that's not jalapeno to make it not so spicy. Also from a leftover from last year too. I've got some other seasonings. So basically, it's going to be pretty simple. Now I've got about 8.5 pounds of cubed mountain lion. They're cubed about like yay big, 2 by 2, 1 1/4, 1 1/4, something like that. And you can actually use just regular fat. You can use either pork fat or beef fat. Now, a lot of grocery stores won't sell it to you. I went to mine over here and they said, no, we don't do that. I don't know, it's just their policy. They just don't want to give away fat or sell fat. But you might be able to go to like an actual butcher or like a wild game processing place or whatever. They might be able to sell you some. But what I like to do, whether it's for this or when I'm making burgers, is I went and got bacon. But I went and got the fattiest, cheapest bacon that I could find. You know when you're supposed to look through the sight window on the bacon and you see how much of it is fat and how much of it's actual meat? Well, I actually look for the stuff that's the fattiest. So basically you've already got some cured ham over here. So it's going to give you a lot of that fat. It's going to give you some of the bacon flavor to mix up the flavor a little bit. So 8.5 pounds of the meat and 2 pounds, I got 2 packs, so 2 pounds of bacon. And then I've got some cheese here that I cubed up. This is about 1/2 pound is what it came out to. They're little tiny cubes, this big. It takes a while to cut it up, but now some people say to use high temperature cheese. In other words, since we're gonna cook this in the oven, I don't have a smoker, so when we start stuffing this and we cook it in the oven, the summer sausage, sometimes the cheese will melt. Well, that's okay. If you start off with big enough chunks, some people just use regular cheese, and this was just like a block of like sharp cheddar is what I used, and I cubed it up. You can buy high temperature cheese, but it's a little bit pricey. You can order it online, you can get it at specialty stores, but it's kind of pricey. So I didn't want to go that route. This cheese is fine. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set up the grinder. Grinder's right here. This is like a Cabela's. I don't even know what model it is. It's not like a pro grade one or anything like that, but it does the job. I've got the coarse plate in here. I don't really run anything through the fine plate anymore. It ends up being too mushy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start feeding a few chunks of the meat and a little bit of the bacon. A few chunks of meat and a little bit of bacon. A few chunks of meat, a little bit of bacon. The cheese is not going to go in there. The cheese is actually going to go in after this is all ground, and I'm going to hand mix it when I mix it all together with the cure. So when we get to that point, I'll show you. Now the next part's going to be kind of loud. I'll just kind of film a little bit with the grinder going and the meat coming out and that kind of thing, so you can get an idea of what this thing sounds like, how loud it is. It's pretty loud, but I'll get it all done, and then after that, I'll show you how we stuff this thing. All right, so here we go with the grinding. We've already got some going here. A little bit of meat. A little bit of bacon. A little bit of meat. All right, guys, so this is the final result. I've got about 10 and a half pounds of ground mountain lion with the bacon in there. I did lie earlier. I did end up putting in the finer grate, the finer disc in there. If I'm making just burger, I'm just going to use that 3/16 one, which ends up, a little bit thicker strands. But, I remembered that when I was doing sausage and things like that, you do want that thicker consistency because you want this stuff to pack into the sausage casing really, really nice and tight without a lot of voids. So I did run it through the 1/8 inch grate. So there we go. Next, I'm going to mix up some of the seasoning, and I'll set up the stuffer, and I'll show you how that whole deal goes. All right, so I've got these divided up, and I've actually got my cure and my seasoning all mixed in here. I had about just about 11 pounds of ground in here, and I mix it up accordingly. These do 5 pounds each, 5 pounds of meat each, and it's got the cure inside of it, so follow the directions. And it just says to do, I think it's like 5 ounces of water per 5 pounds, or per 5 pounds of cure and seasoning mix. So basically, I just mix this in here. You don't want it too thin. You don't want it too thick. You want it to be able to, coat the meat and everything like that. But then you also don't want it to be, too soggy in there, because when you put it into the sausage, it's going to take a lot longer for the sausage to dry out. The summer sausage to dry out, and you just don't want it all mushy and stuff. So I've kind of divided it up here between two bowls equally, and I've got my cheese here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle the cheese evenly between these two, as evenly as I can. I'm not like super concerned about it. I mean, I don't, this isn't going to be, store quality where everything has to be all homogeneous and, everything just like perfect looking. We are kind of, I don't want to say winging it, but I mean, if you want to add more cheese, add more cheese. If you want to do less, do less. So, okay, so constantly stirring, because the solids will kind of tend to go to the bottom. And so we're going to split this up between this one and this one, and eventually they'll get combined into this one big bowl over here. I just didn't have enough room to do this all at once. Get my paper towels ready. By the way, you probably need like a roll or two of paper towels when you're doing all this stuff. And then you just basically got to get in there and get kind of mushy. You mix all this up by hand. Now, some people will do the seasoning and do all this into the grind the first, or the second time. They'll grind the meat, and then they'll put the cure, the seasoning, and all that stuff in, and then re-grind it with it all to make it a little more mixed in there. You could do that. It really doesn't matter. I really like kind of just doing it by hand, so I can actually physically, see what's going on, and see which part of the meat is coated, which part of the meat's not coated. So that way, if I want to add more seasoning, if I want to do more, if I don't want to do any more, then I can do that. I can actually look at this, visually see that, yes, some parts are coated, some parts are not, kind of thing. So this will take a few minutes. This is cold because all this stuff is cold, and your hands will get kind of cold, but that's fine, part of the process. Now, what I'm going to tell you is make sure before you start stuffing this, and that'll be the next video here, before you start stuffing this, go ahead and take, once it's all mixed in and you're happy with it, go ahead and take a little bit, maybe like, a palmful. Put it in a skillet, put it in a pan, and then fry it and taste it. Because you don't want to make 10, 15, 20, whatever many pounds of this that you're going to make and go through all the trouble of that if it ends up like incredibly, like super salty or super hot, if you don't like it that way, and just inedible. So here's the time to fix it. If it's a little bit too salty, you can always grind some more, dilute this down a little bit. If it doesn't have enough seasoning, doesn't have enough flavor, you can add some more. So this is a perfect time to do that. So just a little bit, fry it on the pan, and once you're happy with that one, then you're like, okay, I'm going to stuff the rest of the 15 pounds of this. So next time, I'll show you all the stuffing I got, the stuffer, and show you how that goes. Okay, so like I was saying, I got a really good mix going here. Make sure that when you do this now, when it's all incorporated, when it's all nice and you think you got it all together, take a little bit. Take maybe, I don't know, like a golf ball size worth or something like that. I've got a pan heating up over there. Put it in the pan, cook a little bit of it, cook it through obviously, and sample it, taste it. Because if you find that it's too salty or it's not seasoned enough or whatever, now is the time to do it before you start making 10, 15 pounds of this stuff. And you end up with, you know, 10, 15 pounds of inedible or overly salty or just tasteless product, right? So do it now, save yourself some time. If it's a little too salty, well, you might have to grind, you know, you might have to grind some more meat into this, make a bigger batch and kind of dilute the flavor a little bit. Obviously, if it's not flavorful enough, you can always add some right now, put it back in the pan, retest it. So I'm gonna do that right now, and the next time you'll see this set up with a stuffer attachment. I've got these casings. These are like 1 pound casings that are soaking in water. Okay, so they kind of come, they're dried out. They're kind of brittle, not brittle, but they're kind of dry. So you soak these in water. They've been soaking for about a half an hour. So I'll set all this stuff up. I'm gonna do my little taste test, and next time you'll see me stuffing. All right, so we got our stuffer here. Move this out of the way. So here's our soaked casing, right? They come in like a 10 count or whatever. These are like 1 pound deals. And this is a sausage stuffer. Basically, you know, I've got the meat in here, the ground stuff, everything loaded. By the way, I did do a test sample. Perfect, not overly salty, had plenty of flavor, wasn't crazy hot with jalapeno, just enough flavor. I mean, it came out really, really good. So I'm happy with it. I'm gonna go with it. This sausage stuffer, one of the best things I ever bought. You know, the grinder is really, really good. I used to have a hand crank one. Those things are terrible. Buy yourself a grinder. That's not a heavy duty one. Like Weston makes a nice heavy duty one. They're super expensive, but you know, pro grade. LEM products, they make a really, really good one. Cabela's also makes really good ones too. I got both of these things with my Cabela's dollars, you know, when you use the credit card. One of the best uses of the Cabela's, or you know, bucks or whatever that I ever bought. This sausage stuffer is great. The most grinders will have a sausage stuffer attachment to them, but again, it's loud. You got to hear that all the time. This thing is nice and silent, and it's hand crank. You can control it. Okay, so no jokes, right? Or you can make jokes. I don't care. So you basically, you know, scooch this onto here, and you're pushing this casing all the way on as much as you can. You're trying to get it all the way to the tip, and then you hold on to it. Okay, and then as you crank this down. Now, it helps when this is, you know, not moving around so much. What I'll probably do is after I show you this one, I'll go get like a clamp and actually do it over here so this thing doesn't move around so much. You can actually clamp it to, you can screw it to a board, you can do whatever, but I'll just show you here with this. What this is doing then, it's pushing this down, and it's pushing it down, it's squirting it up. So, and you'll actually see it pretty soon come out the front. There we go. And you got to try and make sure to keep like a tight grip on this, so it puts the you know, the mix into there and not a ton of air. Okay, we can deal with air pockets later, but as you can see, it's slowly. This is hard to do again with this thing moving, of course. Okay, but you're trying to pack in as much of that stuffing as much as you can in there, right? So it's coming out. You got to just kind of get a feel for it when enough's enough and how tight is tight enough kind of thing. And you just keep moving your hand and keep tightening, or keep a nice tight grip on the front here. There you go. And you got to kind of, well, take that off. I don't know, something like that, because you got to leave enough room in the front to twist it. Get yourself some butcher's string, butcher's twine, whatever you want to call it. There you go. Okay, and then if you're going to use a smoker, you know, you can double tie this obviously to keep it from coming open. If you're going to use a smoker, you can actually tie, you know, this part together and actually hang it from, you know, the racks in your smoker or whatever. So this is how it's going to look. It's a little soft over here, but basically, you know, it's nice and packed in there, not a lot of air bubbles. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to stuff the rest of these, and I'm just going to put them on, they're on a grate, on a pan, it's like a little wire grate, And then these are actually going to stay curing overnight, and then tomorrow I'm going to stick them in the oven. Again, I don't have a smoker. I used to have one. I just didn't really get into the whole smoking thing. Just a little bit too much fuss and muss and stuff. But oops, my stuff's oozing out. I don't want that. But I'm going to do them in the oven. You do them in the oven. I set the oven to about 200, and I crack the lid a little bit so air kind of circulates in there. So what that does is it cooks this, and it also dries it out because you've got air circulating in there. So it'll probably sit in there a few hours, probably like 3 hours, something like that. Internal temperature, I make sure it gets above 170, and that way I know that everything is nice and safe and cooked, and it's going to be great. So that's probably going to be it for the video for tonight. Or for today. I'll probably make the other one after I do them in the oven tomorrow, just to show you the finished product. But I'll end up with like 10, 11 of these, pounds of these kind of things. It'll fill both racks. They're going to cure tonight, and I'll cook them tomorrow, and I'll probably do a video about it tomorrow. If you want to, check out any of these products, the Cabela stuff. Again, I'll leave a link to some of the other food processing stuff like Lem, Weston, all that stuff. I'll leave it in the links below. The backwoods seasoning, I'll definitely leave links to that. That's good. There's all kinds of seasonings out there. There's all kinds of really cool stuff. You can make your own too, but some of these ones that you get, they're super convenient. Just remember though, a lot of the store-bought ones that you get are really, really high in salt, okay? And then of course you add the pink salt in there too, which is separate from that, which is the cure, which makes them extra salty. That's why I said make sure you go slow and you taste it as you go. Sometimes you have to back off on the seasoning that you get in the packet because you have to use like the cured, the pink salt. Don't vary on that because that's for safety, right? You got to use X amount of that packet, or one packet for X amount of meat to make sure it's safe. But if that adds a bunch of saltiness to it as it is. So then if you then on top of that use the seasoning, which also has salt on it, sometimes a lot of times for me, they become way too salty. So I've gotten to using the store-bought stuff, and then I'll mix in my own. I'll mix in my garlic, and you can do coriander, you can do anything. Go look up different summer sausage recipes. That seasoning part is kind of up to you. I just buy it because it's convenient, and I add to my own. But don't vary from the pink salt and the cure and all that, because that's important for food safety. So anyway, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope the video kind of came out relatively fluid. I'm kind of doing this on a Saturday afternoon, stop and start kind of thing. So I appreciate the support. I appreciate you guys watching the channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. And definitely the podcast too. Go ahead and listen to the podcast. I want to make that as big as I can. I want to spread the word, so that's up to you guys. So please go there and leave a rating. Ratings are huge for the podcast, and YouTube channel, all this stuff. So I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope you guys are diving in and doing all your kind of stuff in the kitchen with the wild game that you harvest. And if you don't, maybe this sparks a little bit of interest and excitement. Because this is not that difficult type of stuff. If you have the right equipment, you can certainly make it a whole lot easier. But you can do this with like a regular hand grinder and a stuffer and that kind of stuff. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.